What's going on, everybody? This is Afro Think Tank. Y'all know sometimes I like to use maps to have conversations. Y'all seen me do this a couple times. So I just want to talk about a few things about black, right? We're talking about black. What's black? Who's African? Y'all know how we talk about that, right? So let's just go to America, right? Most Americans, African Americans, live here. This is where we live, from New York, right, to Texas, the South, right? So from Texas all the way on this coastline, right, on the coastlines, that's where most of the body of the diaspora reside, right? And if you look at the coastline, the reason why we reside on the coastlines and on the eastern portion, while most of us are here, is because these were the ports that the ships came into from Europe, right? So the ships would go from the coastline, because Europeans are coastal people. They would sail down here to West Africa, to the ports, right? And sail right across the waterway to Brazil, the Caribbean islands, and America. So all the black people reside on the eastern portion of the Americas. All the black people. You look at all the black areas of South America, they are on the eastern portion, right? That's where all the black people are, all the way up through the Americas, right? So we know that there were natives all around here, right? Natives all the way around here that we black people intermix with, the native population of this land, right? But we also know, if you guys may have not known, but the Polynesians, right? These Polynesians, who we all agree that the Polynesians, which include the Aboriginals, Indonesians, Filipinos, Malaysians, Papua New Guineas, New Zealanders, and them big old Samoans, we all agree that they look like, African people. We all agree that they have to be related to us. But these people were great sailors, as you can see from how they were able to distribute themselves amongst this large body of water. Look at the island here. See that island here? And the island there? These are vast differences. And if you look at the differences, it's not that great a leap from that place to Mexico, Nicaragua, Colombia, Ecuador, Peru, Chile, Argentina. There's archaeological evidence, historical evidence, physical evidence that these people made it to the west coast of the Americas, right? They possibly could have got there before the Asians, right? Which were the other Africans who left Africa, who migrated upwards through Mongolia. Mongolians are pretty dark Asians as well, just so you know. There are a lot of dark Chinese people still in existence. You just don't see them on TV. Up the coastline that went to the Americas from here, that became the modern day Native Americans in the north, and the Canadian Eskimos and Inuit tribes in the north, and the Indian tribes in the central. And at some point, these Polynesians, precursor Polynesians, met and mixed with these groups. So the groups split off. The groups split off after they left Africa. They split off, some remaining in the global south, some traveling through the global north, following their herds of mainly reindeer and herding animals That's where we followed them. So if you know, look, the migratory patterns of herding animals. Human beings follow the migratory patterns of herding animals. That's how we navigate around the world, okay? That's always how we've always done it, right? So they mixed with these people. But we always see that these ones right here are they're more Afro in their phenotypes than the northern ones who changed a little bit, right? But even so, when they made it over here, we know that the Native Americans still maintain their coppered color. So you had coppered colored Native Americans mixed with lighter Native Americans because, like I said, there were two waves. Well, I didn't say that before. There were two waves of migrations over this area. And it said there was a first wave, which were probably more melanated. The second wave of the lighter skinned Asians came, well, what we call Asians. They actually got into conflict with these ones that got here first. And they kind of won out or mixed over or whatever. So that's why in North America, you have a bunch of dark skin and yellow skin or lighter complected skinned natives there, right? But the people down here had more Africoid features. They had more African looking features, the same as the Polynesians, which we all agree have very Afrocentric feet. They look like us. They're just like our light-skinned cousins. We always say that. They build civilization here. And when these Asians came down, they said, and they told us in history that they was there when we got there. I can see how it can be misunderstood that it was Africans. Now, African people, if you look at the distance, African people, Africa is not that far from South America. There's a natural reoccurring current in the ocean where you can travel to South America from West Africa very easily. There's currents in the ocean. You don't need to sail. You can literally put a boat in the ocean. It will sail to South America. Ancient Africans and ancient South Americans knew this, right? So that means, and we were seafaring people, despite everything that you hear in the media. African people are seafaring people. West Africans are seafaring people. These people know how to swim. Culture was disrupted, and I understand all that. Historically, Africans are seafaring people. Yeah, some of the people who can hold their breath the longest come from this area right here. Seafaring people on seas. Coastal people are seafaring people. Only seafaring people are seafaring. These are all seafaring Vikings. Seafaring people, European seafaring people. It's the seafaring people that traveled vast distances. Portuguese seafaring people, West Africa, seafaring people. We seafarried to Central Africa and traded with these Native Americans over here, who we call them. But a lot of these people would have been a part of the Polynesian ethno group, right? But also down here at the bottom, there's still a tribe at the very tip of South America that still holds the genetic material from these ancient Polynesian people, right? And they look very African, right? They're dotted throughout these people. Say there are still people who carry the African black phenotype of the Africoid that got here before the Africans from the transatlantic slave trade came here. And we also mixed with them through our thousands of years of trading as being coastal people who traveled back and forth with goods and services, right? We did do that. But African people never made large enough populations in these areas to maintain a homogeneous, racially distinct civilization because of the vast time differences and the amount of indigenous individuals who are already here and the other Asiacoids who came and continued to migrate from the north, from down here, right? So that's why we get a lot of confusion. We got a lot of African people who recognize the phenotypes of the South Africans and some of the Central Indians, and why it is that they favor us is because all of these people are our offshoot children who have traveled the globe. Literally, we African people as we traveled the globe, right? As we traveled the globe, we stayed down here through the coast, fishing and following herds all the way throughout here. Now, that's when we get to India. Indians are African. They're about as African as you can get outside of Africa, right? These people are the phenotypes. These are the tribes, the groups. These are the people that traveled. These ones stopped, some kept going, right? But these guys stopped right outside of Africa. Pakistanis are dark. Afghanistanis are dark. Iranians are dark. We're talking about dark-skinned melanated people. They are dark. You do have European ones who came from these areas up here. These are the Caucasus, European, Eurasians. They have migrated downward from the north and have met the melanateds in the middle, right? But most of these people are dark. You just don't see them on TV because who controls the media? That's a whole nother story. Yemenis, Oman, these people are dark. The Ethiopians and Africans, these African people dominated this area. We all agree that these people were black. I've been to these areas. These people are black. Arabs are just a mixture of the black Africoids who have encountered the Europeans and encountered the Asians over here. That's all they are. Arab is not a race. It's simply a language that these people have been kind of lumped up together with. Turkin, Irans, like Iranians are not Arabs, they're Persians. Iraqis are Arabs. Turks are what could be seen Europeans, or they don't like to be called Arabs. Jordanians, these people down here. Yemenis looks like Ethiopians. That's where you get that different look, you know, because of the Africans here who conquered this area right here. All right. So these people conquered these people over here as well. The you know how you hear Mesopotamia and all that? Those were African people. These African people here traveled to India and populated and gave civilization to India. So Indians are black. I know they have a what do you call they have a racist issue. Yes, they're very, very racist towards African people. They hate themselves and their complexion, and they have a caste system. That comes from the Indians that come from this area. The reason why they want to be white so bad, these areas up here, is because there's a history within the Indians and Pakistanis people that they come from. They're the original Caucasians, right? They claim originality up here. They are a mix of the Europeans coming down from up here to down here, all right? But the original inhabitants, the people who built all that amazing stuff back in the day, were Africans. Africans, the people of the Maghreb. We traveled here, seafaring people, and we civilized India. That's why if you speak to the Indian people there, all the ancient artifacts that you find here, all the ancient artifacts that you find here, all these are black people. These are black. The original inhabitants who built all the great ancient civilizations were black people who traveled. We agree these are all black people. These genetically different, obviously, because Africans are genetically diverse. The only people who are genetically similar are the Caucasus. The only people who are truly similar the most are the Europeans and these Han Chinese. They're basically the same group of people, right? The deeply white pale Chinese, and Russia starts here. The Europeans, there's a earth belt. Listen, there's a belt where all these white skinned people are from. It's above here, like at the very top. There's a belt at the very top where a lot of these pale skinned people come from. That's where they come from. Whether they look Asian or European, they come from here, and they followed those cold weather herds of animals up there, and they lost their melanin because of, the ice age and shit like that. And then they finally made their way down to Europe recently and populated Europe. But look how small Europe is compared to Africa. And this map is not even proper. Africa is much bigger than this. Europe is small. So if you look at all of what you can see Europe, all the labels of all the countries, all of that fits right in the desert of Africa. So all that history is in a very small location. It's a very small, tiny group of people. Europe is a coastline of Eurasia, right? It's just that these people are seafaring people, so they managed to make their way through West Africa and encounter us, and they did what they did. And we took them over here. We knew they got our maps and all of our stuff. The reason why they knew this place was over here is because they found out through us. Seafaring people, the Moroccans, the Moors, any Moors that lived, which means black, that lived on the coastline were seafaring people. We took over Portugal, right? It's right there. We took over mostly France. France, they're very dark Europeans. Italians, very dark Europeans. All of this. Greek, look how close it is. It's the Mediterranean. That's when the dark started to become light. That's the blending. That's where the blending happened. Seafaring people, right? We told them people that this place was over here, right? We made our way over here. The only Europeans that knew this place was over here were these people, because some of these people here, seafaring people, made their way accidentally to Iceland, and some of them managed to stay on Iceland, and they made their way over here to Greenland, and they was able to bounce over here to Canada, right? They were able to act because of the islands in between. These seafaring people up here, they made their way to the Americas up top and came down, right? This is just seafaring people work. That's all it is. But we have been going here. But just like the Europeans who discovered that they were already people over here, because they have already made their way from over here thousands of years before, they never had a significant population. These people never made a significant population over here. They never did. They came. There's proof that Europeans made it over here way before these Europeans post freaking Moorish conquerors made their way over here to Dominican Republic and Cuba, but they never established a civilization. There's some genetic evidence, but they never established themselves. They got as far as Greenland. That's where they stopped. They stopped right here. But they made it, right? Seafaring people. They weren't afraid to just go over the sea. Plus, there are highways, right? So when we talk about who's black, we accept a lot of black people are mixed. These people I call pretendians, they're mixing up true history and they're mixing up the migrational patterns, and they're claiming something that's not directly from them because they are West African recent migrants from this area. They're not directly related to the Africans that made their way from here over here, populated, built, developed over here, and then end up making their way over here and populating these areas. They're not that my group of Africans, right? But if we're going to claim that we are Africans and indigenous, how you going to say that Kamala Harris, who's directly descendant from the very first group of Africans who left out of Africa, who we know there are still African, highly concentrated, super blackest people on earth, Africans still living down here in these islands who we praise and we claim as Africans, right? Despite how we feel about Indians and their racism towards their Africanness, because they pander to this portion of India that they want to be Europeans and they want to be connected to the Caucasus, right? Despite that, in the real world, they know that they come from the civilization that they call hunter and gatherers, because they don't want to claim what is true, but they still have to do the science. They call it hunter and gatherer civilization. That is the predominant and original civilization of India, which were the hunter and gatherers, the travelers who followed the herds and seaways from Africa, at which we had kingdoms and we already was dominating and building civilizations, right? We all agree that this area, everybody here is some sort of religion and fighting to be and claiming that this area here is Africa. We always say this is look at the land thing, and this is just some water. This is Africa, which is true. These people are black and dark, right? They are dark because of obviously white supremacy and various other cultural and religious factors. They may not claim it, but in the real world, they are in fact our offspring, and they look like us, and a lot of them are darker than us and have all the same phenotypes as us, as they come from us. We all know that this here is Africa. We claim that, right? These people, Indians, are clearly more pure in their dark complexion than even these ones up here, as this is a desert and not conducive for living. Therefore, no herds, right? No herds or no massive populations, as they followed the coastline and made their way over here, where we even have Africans on the coast, where we have islands, where we have a beautiful mix and amalgamation of those Afro-Eurasian Blasians, that are pure Afro-Eurasian Blasians that are right here. that are proof of the mixture of the kingdoms and all the things, all the empires that did trade with one another through here. As Somalia is has always been a major global trading route, as we were trading with the Chinese thousands of years ago. We were trading with the Chinese thousands of years ago. Despite what Western education has taught you, black history didn't start during slavery. Slavery interrupted black history. And we also understand that these people in the North, who are a mixture of Africans mixing with Asians, mixing with Europeans, and in recent more European influxes into this portion, which makes these people look even more European, we still claim that these people are these people are African, and they still claim that they are in fact African, even though there's still issues with the idea of being black. But in fact, they are genetically African still, even though phenotypically they look different from the original phenotype, stereotypical African that we're used to seeing as West Africans. Most African Americans don't know what Africans look like because they're just now coming into the age of information, right? So when we're talking about Kamala Harris being a black, for all intents and purposes, her mixture of Indian, which is basically black outside of Africa, and her African roots makes her pretty black. It makes her pretty black in the real world, biologically, genetically. If we talking about deep history, the way a lot of you African Americans who want to claim Native American heritage, the way you claim it, by your standards, she's black. By your standards, she's black. By you Christian standards, since all you American Christians who worship the European God and y'all want to believe that Bible and think that you all are the chosen people from over here right outside of Africa, well, by your standards, she's black. I mean, if you want to play that game, everybody got their own interpretation of what black is, but ultimately, black is people who originate from Africa. Shit, even some people even telling Europeans, hey, you African too. Y'all just kind of far removed. Y'all just phenotypically different. Y'all just melanated, y'all just deficient in melanin. Right? Because we know the world globe, we know that everybody comes from Africa. So everybody can truly claim African, to be honest. You know, I mean, to be honest, if we talking about deep history, because they're all our children, right? We populated the world, right? We big bag black people who populated the world. Well, these are the babies that we left. These are the children we created. So now we're going to reject them. So now I'm talking about that big picture stuff, right? But we know who are the modern day Africans are. And we know where those modern day Africans came from. And we African Americans, just like the Africans on the East Coast, the Africans on the East Coast of the entire Western Hemisphere are recent Africans from just over the water, from right here. We are recent Africans, far removed from the other Africans that populated the world. And that's the truth. And that's the kind of time I'm on. So I don't play that. I don't question. When somebody says they're African or they black, and black means African, black is the English term from negro. Negro is the Spanish term for black. Black is how they saw us. Black is just the modern word for saying Moor, for saying Ethiopian, for saying black-headed land, for saying Kemet, for saying us. It's an identifier. Black and Africans can know the same thing. And because I know that, I don't play games with the words. I don't play games with semantics. So if there's somebody who says she's black, and if her parents come from Africa, or at least come from a people group that didn't have that's close or relatively close to Africa, I accept it. And that's what I do. And that's my type of Pan-Africanism. And I'm not stupid, naive, and just that doesn't mean that anybody can just call themselves black. Somebody from Poland, like, yeah, I'm black too, because if I go back far enough, our people come from Africa. I'm not saying that. So don't play with me. And don't try to spin my words. Y'all know exactly what I'm saying. I'm saying, if she black, if you Jamaican, you black. Jamaicans are black. Jamaicans and African Americans are the same Africans from the same tribes, from the same countries, from the same kingdoms. We got off at different bus stops. We got off at different boat stops. We get off at different ships And when you process that information and understand that we are one people, and I can give a shit about the lines that the Europeans created to divide us, then you'll be much better off for it. And that's my kind of Pan-Africanism. So like I said, Kamala Harris is black. A lot of people are black. Black is more than just you're black. And black and African mean the same thing. And if you are an African person that lives in America, you are a descendant of the recent Africans brought over here by the seafaring Europeans from the transatlantic slave trade. And that is the truth in the real world, no matter what you want to say and what you want to do. And if we're going to be pro-black and we're going to be playing Pan-African, we can't be playing this game of who's black. Black is Pan-African. Black is the world. Africa is like 3 times the size of this. Africa is legitimately the planet. Saying you black is almost like saying you human. Saying you human and saying you black is interchangeable. Saying you black and saying you African is interchangeable. Saying you African and saying you human is interchangeable. We are the originators. We are the default. And as soon as you get that in your head and put that pride in your information in your mind, then we can elevate these conversations to something more important. Whether than playing games and playing colorism and xenophobic games for tit for tat because your feelings is hurt, or because it ain't always your way, it ain't the way you want to have it exactly, because you don't agree with everything and all things, because it's not the way you like it. You want to change things. You want to push the goalpost continuously and justify your goalpost being justified to be pushed, while complaining that other people's also pushing goalposts on the things that they believe in. I'm not playing that game. So like I said, Kamala Harris is black. Anyway, that's all I got to say. This is Afro Think Tank. Learn something, teach something. I'm out.